The night was filled with shouting, running footsteps, and the loud sound of machines inside the emergency room. Doctors rushed around the hospital bed where a young boy lay completely still, his small chest refusing to rise. The monitor beside him made one long, flat sound that sent fear through everyone in the room. "We are losing him. Increase the oxygen," one doctor shouted. Another doctor pressed harder on the boy's chest, sweat running down his face. Come on, breathe." Outside the glass door, a tall, well-dressed man stood frozen, his hands shaking. He was one of the richest men in the city, but at that moment, he looked powerless. "Doctor, save my son. Do whatever it takes," he yelled. Inside, the doctors kept trying for a few more seconds, then the sound from the machine became steady and empty. Boop. The doctor slowly stopped and looked at the others. No one spoke. Finally, the oldest doctor removed his gloves and lowered his head. "I'm sorry. We did everything we could." The billionaire staggered backward as if someone had hit him. No, that's not possible. Check again." "We tried, sir." Tears rolled down the man's face as he held the door for support. Nurses looked away because they could not stand the pain in his voice. Just then, from the end of the corridor, a small voice shouted, "Wait, he's not dead." Everyone turned at once. Standing near the wall was a thin, dirty boy wearing oversized clothes. His hair was rough, his slippers were broken, and his eyes were wide with fear. Security immediately rushed toward him. "Hey, what are you doing here again? Get out!" But the boy refused to move. "I saw his hand move. Please check again. He's not dead." The guards grabbed his arm, but he struggled. "Please, let me look. Just 1 minute." Nobody knew that this same boy had been around the hospital for months. He slept behind the building near the waste bins, hiding from rain under a small piece of carton. Every day he watched doctors through the window, studying the way they pressed on patients' chests, the way they used oxygen masks, the way they refused to give up. He never went to school, but he learned by watching. Most people thought he was just another homeless child looking for food, so they chased him away whenever they saw him. But that night, something felt different to him. He had been standing near the glass when the doctors were working on the billionaire's son. When everyone started slowing down, he noticed something small. The boy's finger had moved, just a little, so small that nobody else saw it. "Please," he shouted again, "he's still alive." The billionaire looked at him with the red eyes. "Who is this boy?" "Just a street child, sir," one guard said. "He stays around here." "Take him away," a nurse added, but the homeless boy kept shaking his head. "No, you don't understand. He's not gone yet." The billionaire stared at him for a moment, confused, angry, and desperate at the same time. "Wait," the man said suddenly. Everyone stopped. The hallway became quiet. "You said he moved?" the billionaire asked. "Yes, sir," the boy replied, breathing fast. "His hand, I saw it. Please, let me check." The doctors looked at each other annoyed. "This is not a game," one of them said, but the billionaire raised his hand. "Open the door." The guards hesitated. "Sir?" I said, "Open the door." They slowly stepped aside. The homeless boy walked into the emergency room, his legs shaking. He had never been allowed inside before. The bright lights made him blink, but he forced himself to focus. He walked closer to the bed and looked at the boy's face. For a moment, he froze. Then he whispered to himself, "You're not gone. I know you're not." One doctor crossed his arms. "You have 10 seconds, he said. The boy swallowed and placed his small hand on the child's wrist, the way he had seen doctors do many times. He closed his eyes, trying to feel something. Nothing. The room became tense. People started shaking their heads. Then suddenly the boy moved to the side of the bed. "Lift him a little," he said quietly. The doctor frowned. "What?" "Please, lift him a little." Nobody moved. The homeless boy looked at the billionaire. "Sir, please." The man nodded. "Do it." Reluctantly, the doctor helped adjust the child's body. The homeless boy quickly placed both hands on the boy's chest and started pressing the way he had seen many times through the window behind the hospital. 1, 2, 3. His hands were shaking, but he did not stop. "Come on, breathe. Please breathe," he whispered. Some nurses looked uncomfortable. "This is useless," one of them said. The doctor stepped forward. "That's enough." But before he could touch the boy, the machine made a sudden sound. Beep! Everyone froze. Beep! Another sound. The doctor turned quickly. "Wait. Beep! Beep! Beep!" The line on the monitor moved. The room exploded with noise. "He's back. Pulse is back. Oxygen, hurry!" Doctors rushed into action again, pushing the homeless boy aside, but this time, the machine kept beeping. Alive! The billionaire covered his mouth with both hands as tears poured down his face. My son! My son!" Nobody spoke to the homeless boy. He just stood there, breathing hard, staring at the floor. One of the nurses finally looked at him. "How did you know?" He did not answer. The billionaire slowly walked toward him. Up close, he could see the dirt on the boy's face, the tiredness in his eyes, and the hunger in his body. "You saved my son?" the man said quietly. The boy shook his head. "I just tried." "No," the billionaire said. "The doctors stopped. You didn't." The room became silent again. "Where did you learn that?" the doctor asked. The boy hesitated, then spoke in a low voice. "I watch from outside, every day." People looked at each other in surprise. He continued, his voice breaking. "My mother, she died here last year. They said nothing could be done. I didn't understand. So I stayed, I watched, I wanted to know how to save people, so nobody would die like that again." No one moved, even the doctors looked down. The billionaire felt something heavy in his chest. For a moment, he could not speak. Finally, he asked, "Where do you live?" The boy shrugged. "Outside, behind the building." That night, after his son was moved to another room, the billionaire went looking for him. He found the boy sleeping on the cold ground behind the hospital, using a piece of carton as a bed. The man stood there for a long time, saying nothing. Then he slowly removed his jacket and covered the boy with it. The boy woke up in fear and tried to stand. "I'm sorry, I'll go." "Wait," the billionaire said. The boy froze. "Why didn't you ask for money?" the man asked. The boy looked confused. "I didn't do it for money." "Then what do you want?" The boy hesitated, then said softly, "I just want a chance to learn, to become someone who can help people." The billionaire took a deep breath. "You already helped someone," he said. He placed his hand on the boy's shoulder, "and from today, your life will change." Years later, the same hospital welcomed a new young doctor. Confident, calm, respected. Nobody believed he was once the homeless boy who slept behind the building, but he never forgot. And he never stopped helping people. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and tell us in the comments what you would have done in that moment, because sometimes the person nobody notices is the one with the gift nobody knew. The young doctor stood quietly at the end of the hospital corridor, watching as nurses rushed past him with stretchers and files. The smell of medicine and disinfectant filled the air, the same smell he had known for years, the same place where his life had changed forever. Every time he walked through those doors, he remembered the cold nights behind the building, the hunger, the fear, and the promise he made to himself the day his mother died. He adjusted his coat and was about to enter the ward when a loud voice came from the reception area. "Call the senior doctor now! Hurry!" People began to gather. A woman was crying loudly while two men carried an elderly patient inside. The man on the stretcher was barely breathing, his chest moving slowly as if every breath was a struggle. "Move aside! Give space!" a nurse shouted. The young doctor stepped closer and looked at the patient. Something about the scene felt familiar. The panic, the shouting, the helpless faces. It reminded him of that night years ago. "What happened?" he asked calmly. One of the nurses turned. "Car accident. He lost too much blood. The senior doctor is on the way." The young doctor looked at the patient again, then at the family. The woman crying was holding the man's hand tightly. "Please, save him. Please," she kept saying. Without waiting, the young doctor moved forward. "Prepare the emergency room," he said. The nurse hesitated. "Doctor, the chief said we should wait for—" "We don't have time," he replied firmly. There was something in his voice that made everyone move immediately. They rushed the patient inside and placed him on the bed. Machines were connected, gloves were worn, lights turned on. The young doctor checked the pulse, then the eyes, then the chest. His face became serious. "Start oxygen." One nurse did it quickly. "Pressure is dropping," another said. The woman outside kept praying loudly. Inside the room, the young doctor pressed his hands together for a moment, as if remembering something from long ago. Then he started giving instructions one after another, his voice steady, his hands fast but careful. Minutes passed. The monitor made an uneven sound. Then suddenly, beep. The line went flat. The nurses froze. One of them whispered, "Doctor?" The young doctor did not move. For a second, the entire room felt exactly like the past. The same sound, the same silence, the same moment when everyone thinks it is over. One nurse slowly said, "We lost him," but the young doctor shook his head. "No?" He moved closer and placed his hands on the patient's chest. "Prepare for CPR?" The nurse looked surprised. "Doctor, there's no response." He looked at her with calm eyes. "We are not done yet." He started pressing. 1, 2, 3. His movements were strong but controlled, just like the first time he ever tried to save someone. Sweat formed on his forehead, but he did not stop. "Come on, stay with me," he whispered. The nurses looked at each other. Something about the way he spoke made them continue helping. "Oxygen ready. Injection ready." He kept pressing. Then suddenly, beep. Everyone looked at the monitor. Beep. Another sound. Beep. 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 "He's back!" a nurse shouted. The room filled with movement again. The young doctor stepped back slowly, breathing hard. For a moment he just stared at the patient. Then he closed his eyes in relief. Outside, the woman saw the doctors moving quickly again and ran to the door. "What happened?" A nurse came out smiling. "He's alive." The woman fell to her knees crying, "Thank you, God! Thank you!" A few minutes later, the young doctor walked out of the room. The woman rushed to him. "Doctor, thank you! Thank you!" He smiled gently. "He will be fine." He came back strong. She held his hands tightly. "I don't know how to thank you." He shook his head. "Just take care of him when he wakes up." As he turned to leave, one of the older doctors who had been watching from a distance walked closer. "I heard what happened," the man said. The young doctor nodded slightly. "You didn't give up," the older doctor continued. He smiled a little. "I learned that a long time ago." The older doctor looked at him carefully, then said quietly, "You're the boy, aren't you?" The young doctor paused. For a moment he did not answer, then he gave a small smile. "Yes." The older doctor shook his head in disbelief. "I remember that night. Nobody believed you, but you saved that child." The young doctor looked down the corridor where patients and families were walking. "That night saved me too," he said softly. Just then, a small boy ran past them laughing, followed by his father. The young doctor watched them disappear around the corner, then took a deep breath and continued walking toward the ward. Because for him, every life he saved was a reminder of the promise he made long ago. And he intended to keep that promise for the rest of his life. If you enjoyed this story, make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and write in the comments if you believe kindness can change someone's destiny. Because sometimes the greatest gifts are hidden in the people the world forgets.